Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast. I am your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Adams.
What up, what up?
We got Alec Langdon up on the soundboard here this evening. Now, Rob, I got to tell you, I've been here for 15 minutes. We've been talking a little bit across the table here. I am so excited to see where this goes, okay?
Yeah.
Not to mention, by far the best beer that we have ever had on the podcast.
You win.
It's
You win.
Bar none, hands down.
Look at that.
But ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest this evening, Mr. Ben Light.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We insert applause now. It's like if you listen to the soundtrack, it's just, it's amazing. So
Now I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I met Ben about, it's been 5 or 6 years ago now. Has it been that long?
I bet you it's been more.
Than that.
About 5 or 6.
5 or 6 years. I was working at Keller Williams. We have these meetings on Tuesday mornings or something, a sales meeting, and he was our special guest or something like that. And he told his story. I'm excited. I hope we can share the story again about the journey.
Stories.
And I had a podcast back then called The Rest of Us. It was the name of the podcast. Yeah. And I had you on there. You're one of my very first guests. And so when we're putting this one together, I'm thinking to myself, like, who would I want to talk to? And so what I'm really interested in, of course, is talking about your story, where it came from, but what's happened in the past 6 years, because back then you were kind of like just getting your wheels. Like you were just starting to show up in this, like, this is my thing. So I'm excited to get caught up on where you've been. But an amazing story, Ben. Let's talk about, you're a Utahn.
Yep.
Raised in Utah?
No.
Where were you raised?
Reno, Nevada.
Reno.
Yeah.
Utah-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful country out there. One of my favorite towns, Reno. And then how long have you been in Utah?
This time I've been here close to 10 plus years, 11 years.
Okay, so you've been here for a minute now.
Yep.
And when we met, you were just kind of telling the story, and let's just jump right into that if we can, kind of your origin story about you were lifting, you were kind of heavy.
Yep.
And I guess, what is it you're into? Let's talk about that. Let's introduce the crew to who you are.
Yeah, I'll give the audience just a little, Cliff Note version of my story and who I am. So my name is Ben Light. I live actually in Heber City, Utah right now.
Oh, wow.
And I always call it the correct side of the Wasatch.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
It's nice up there.
But everybody's figuring that out and moving up there.
Yeah, you don't want to tell too many people.
Yeah, don't move there.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. So basically, ever since high school, I've lifted. Even I served a mission for my church, lifted the entire time. I served in Texas, came home, continued to lift. Always wanted to get big, just like anybody in the gym. Most males want to get big and buff and look that part and stuff like that. When I hit my late 20s, early 30s, that getting big actually happened, but it wasn't the nice cut, awesome type of a look. It was more of a marbled steak type of like a ribeye.
That's the best way I've ever heard that put.
It wasn't a sirloin. It was definitely like either a ribeye or a roast.
It's expensive. It's the expensive meat. I get it.
Okay, all right.
With a
that
lot
goes
of flavor.
in the crock pot.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, you're gonna cook that
Well,
down.
I was trying to get down to like looking a better part, and started to adapt cardio into my training, and basically could not even run a mile. So I resorted over to swimming to lose weight, to then eventually start the running process. The running process took a few years to figure out for me, just the actual go out and run a few miles to help lose weight. I was running into knee issues, back issues. I had degenerative arthritis in my lower back from a ski injury back in high school that would always flare up. I couldn't lift crazy heavy because it'd always like throw it out and stuff like that. I know a lot of people deal with back injuries and back issues and stuff like that. Well, it was an uphill battle to figure out the whole cardio thing to lose weight. So basically, I kept trying to figure out how to do this running thing. And because it was so hard, it kind of felt like a challenge to me where I wanted to figure out how to master this. And so over a bit of time, I started to pick away at the miles and work up. And then I kind of got into, I moved to Utah, let's just say it that way. I learned about ultra marathoning back in California. I thought those people were crazy. I lived in this town called Forest Hill, which is one of the oldest 100-mile events in the U.S. It's called Western States. It's probably the most prestigious event, and the halfway point is Forest Hill.
Wow.
And so I started to learn about this event, and I started to learn about these people that run 100 miles, and I thought they were absolutely idiots.
How far were you running then? Like 5 miles?
6.
Yeah.
was probably my longest, and I thought that was stupid. I was like, it was 3 miles to the gym and 3 miles back. That was my 6 miles, and I was like, these guys, this is
That's
ridiculous.
a long ways.
How are these people doing this? But it planted a seed, but it didn't foster. I mean, I still thought they were idiots.
Yeah.
So eventually I moved up to Washington State for a job and had my third kid, even though I didn't actually bear the child. I gained weight with my
Sympathy
wife.
weight.
Sympathy weight.
It's a thing. Topher's look at
up,
him.
dude?
Look at him.
Yeah, what's going on?
He's getting
say
fluffy. He's got a baby on the way.
So, I started like pushing my son in the stroller and started building up some miles and stuff like that. And I started really enjoying this challenge. And I knew about this. Basically, I knew about these people running 100 miles, but I still obviously thought they're idiots. For work, I was sent to New York City. In New York City, I met the famous, most people in the running industry know who Dean Kernazza is. He's like the ultra marathon man. And I actually met him at the New York City Marathon Expo, purchased his book, read it that weekend, and the book is basically like, anybody can do this. And I was just like, yeah,
Whatever.
Anybody but me.
Yeah.
But it planted a seed in my head, and it took about 3 years for that seed to foster. It took me 3 years to believe in myself, to get the courage up, to believe that I could potentially do something like that, and wonder. And so it was like that little seed in my mind going, I wonder if I can do that. And it took like for 3 years. I wonder if I can do that. These guys are crazy. These guys are superheroes. These guys are not normal. But
Superhumans.
I wonder if I could do that. And it kept on saying. And so as I moved to Utah and I started to get into trail running, obviously the mountains and everything like that. And I did the very first Ragnar Trail event that they had down in Zion. And it was my first ever trail event, and I ran maybe a total of like 15 or 18 miles over the 3 legs with this group. But I met people back up here in the Wasatch in Salt Lake that did trail running, and so I started hanging out with them and going on morning runs. Now, these people were always talking about their next event that they're preparing for. I'm no different than these people. Like, I'm still out there running. Some I'm stronger than, some I'm not. They're stronger than me. They've been doing it longer. But they're talking about this 31-mile or 50K event or a 50-mile or 100-mile. And I was just like, well, if they can do it, I wonder if I can do it. So that seed started to grow. As I continued to progress, I started to see maybe a little bit of light or hope at the end of that tunnel that maybe this could be something I could potentially do. So that light started getting a little brighter. I started to believe a little bit in myself, but it was still like the longest run that I've ever done at the time was like a half marathon at one time. But it took the fact I just needed to sign up. So I signed up for my first 50K, which is 31 miles. It's kind of like in the ultra world, that's kind of like your entry level.
Your 5K. It's like
the 5K for an ultra marathon, I guess you could say. It's like,
you know what I mean though? Like that's entry level for ultra marathoners. Like if I wanted to do a run and it was longer than a 5K, you'd have to like really do some convincing right now.
We could get
That's
you there.
fair.
We can get you there.
Maybe.
But and an ultra marathon is anything longer than a regular marathon,
Sure.
26.2. So,
Wow.
But that's just really the number that I don't know who picked it, but it's just consistent. 50K is the entry level kind of a thing.
Isn't a marathon the distance between?
It was the Olympian, wasn't it?
No, it's the where you would end up was marathon. It was the name of the place. It was like you're running in Greece.
Yeah, it's in Greece, and that's what actually Dean talks about is the marathon, where it came from. The gentleman that ran it to warn a group of. I don't.
The Sumerians were coming or something.
I'm going to slaughter it.
The British were coming.
He ran it.
Yeah.
And pretty much died at the end or something like that.
Terrible story.
Yeah. But great things have come from it.
Yeah. Anyway.
And so, anyways, long story short, I signed up. I executed a 50K. I became an ultra marathoner. It was the hardest thing. I was like one and done. But it's a crazy thing about the body and about the mind. And when you accomplish something, when you set your sights on something and you work towards it and you accomplish it, there's something that changes inside of you. So even though it was the hardest thing at that present time, it was the hardest thing I ever did physically in a small period of time, that I just like, I wonder if I could do it again, but better. I wonder if I could.
Your problem solving is showing up.
Yeah, it's like I did this, but if I would have done this differently and done this differently,
eaten here or rested here,
I wonder how much time I could have took off my total time. So it's really, you start to, even though you're competing with other runners, you're really kind of competing against yourself in your own mind, because you run in a group run and you like feed off of each other and help each other, but ultimately running is you against you in your head. Like you are the determining factor. If I always say fitness will determine how fast you finish, but your mind will determine if you're going to finish it all.
Lesson in life there.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So, when they talk about physical or mental, it's both.
I'm sure.
But mental is going to get you to the starting line to show up, to start the process. Mental is going to be, everything is involved with mental. Physical is the byproduct of your mental, like preparedness and initiative and everything like that. And as the physical body grows, the mental grows and gets stronger, because now it's getting knowledge and experience from what your body is capable of. And you start to see that
I can do that.
You can do that, and can I do it that much more?
Yeah.
If I ran that far, can I run just one more mile farther? Or can I, if I did a 50K, can I get a 50 miler? If I did a 50 miler, can I do a 100 miler? If I did a 100 miler, can I go 200, 300? What is the limit? And you start to realize there's no limit. We're limitless. We are 100% limitless. It just comes down to like figuring out the recipe for success in that particular goal. And so it's like I always say, if the math adds up, it's possible. Going to the moon, it was just math, right?
Right, yeah.
So if we can go to the moon, can we go to the Mars? Can we go to Jupiter? Can we go to Pluto? Can we go to another universe? Yes, if the math adds up and we figure it out and put enough time and dedication into it, you can do anything you want.
Powerful. That's powerful.
So that's what, and you're your own science experiment.
Yet two hmms. That was a solid Well, as I'm listening to you, a lot of questions pop up in my mind. I'm a big advocate of fitness. I'm down 120 pounds. I'm on my way to improving my health all the time. And I look for these opportunities. But when I hear your story, like, what did you need to figure out in the running? Like, what's the hard math?
Gosh, your podcast is not long enough for that.
We got time. You'd be shocked.
Well, let's just say initially,
Okay.
like you got someone like me that's thinking, okay, like, all right, I'm listening. You got my attention. Like, what do I need to be doing in order to start on the path?
All right. So I would have to say that there's some main key elements, and then each of those you could break down, and there's lots of layers.
Really deep dive.
Yeah, deep dive into them. So the main thing is when I'm talking to. So I do coaching. I'm a personal trainer. I'm also an online endurance coach. I call it strength endurance. And when I'm talking to my clients, so I set that as a precedence because I'm going to refer to me talking to a lot of clients.
Okay.
And what feedback I give them and encouragement. It's like 3 main things is obviously calories, so nutrition, and then there's hydration, and your electrolytes goes into the category of hydration and nutrition.
Okay.
And then there is training and recovery. So in that, if you can figure out those 4 things, you can pretty much conquer any distance within running or any, those are your things. If you can figure those things out, the only way to figure those things out is through trial by error, because every person's body, based on your weight and muscle mass and height, size, everything.
Skeletal,
everything. It determines how much calories you need and
Yeah.
how much hydration you need. How much do you sweat versus another person's sweat rate? So, and then sodium content within the sweat rate. This is like diving into some science, but what I'm just saying is if you can dial in your hydration, your nutrition, if you're consistent about showing up for your training day by day, that consistency is what changes you personally. Not the event, not the goal. It's the showing up every day to gain the experience and the knowledge so that when you do the event, you can successfully complete the event. But the actual change that changes a person is in that process of working towards the goal, not the goal itself. It's the working towards the goal.
That's a golden nugget if I've ever heard one
I
right
know.
there.
There's some good lessons in everything you say, man. What seems to me when I hear your story, you were doing those things. You were figuring out figuring out the mechanism, the bend.
Mm-hmm. Lots of failures.
A lot of failures,
lots of failures.
Bonking out and like having to call for a ride, I would imagine, once in a while. And
Uber did not exist when I first got into this, but Uber does exist now.
Yeah. And so all of these things are happening, but it seems to me like the critical, the turning point in your story was when you started running with others, and you started to gain community.
Yes.
In the running world.
Learn from them.
Is the running world, is that a strong community? I'm not very familiar with it.
You don't understand. It's the best community. It's the best. So out of sports, and you might get some flack. I'm not road running is obviously different than trail running.
Sure.
And I think the community in trail running is just a tad stronger than obviously road running. I'm probably going to hit for that.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah. And then if you look at triathlon, I think that's I don't know. Maybe I should stop there. So I'm going to get some enemies or anything like that. What you're asking is the trail community tight? It's really tight. And they are the most giving and the most empathetic and the most they're willing. I have so many stories I can share with you, but they're the ones that are going to give you their shirt off their back in the middle of an event. They're the one that can hand you nutrition that they actually need,
so that you can succeed.
So that you don't stop there. That they know that they'll need to figure out something down the road when that time comes, but they're willing to give to help the community. It's most races require service work on top, like you pay your entry fee and then you give service in the trail community in order to run the event. It's just part of the community.
The culture.
The culture, yeah.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
it's all about like helping each other. And most people at events aren't paid, like the volunteers. They're volunteers.
There are other runners
They're other runners or just other family members of runners
who know.
And
Yeah.
if you go to an ultra event or a trail event, you have like an 80% chance that you're going to get hooked and want to know that little seed that was planted in my head. Like, I wonder if I could do that. You're going to watch people of all shapes and sizes and ages competing against themselves, but competing in this event, pushing themselves. They're going to become so raw and, you're going to see this inspiration and you're going to go, I want to know what that tastes like. I want to know what that feels like. And most people that volunteer end up becoming, ultra marathoners or runners themselves. The community just changes lives. It changes lives because really it's just all about the community's not there when you wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. to lace up your shoes. That's you. It's not there like keep running up to the next corner, the next street light. It's you. It's you pushing yourself. It's you showing up. It's you. And all of a sudden, it empowers you to change this little aspect of your life, and then you can use that change or that ability, and you can look at that from your family aspect, from your work aspect, from your relationships with friends, and you start to understand that everybody in this life that we live is running their own endurance race. Life is the ultimate endurance race. We all have different backgrounds. We all are different phases of our race. We all are struggling. We're all trying to process and figure out and gain experience and understanding and knowledge. And you start to understand, just like one of these running events where you have these highs and lows, you feel good, you feel bad, you don't know why you're doing this, but then you love it, and then the views, and then the challenge, and you know that it's, you're eventually going to get there and stuff like that. Those lessons learned translate over into your personal life, and you start to utilize that skill set in your work in dealing with other fellow employees, and then you share those tidbits, and then you encourage, just like you're being encouraged at a race event or you're encouraging another person. You start to understand that people are in their own endurance event, and you don't know their background. And so even if someone wrongs you or offends you in a way, you know that it's your choice to be offended. It's not, it's up to you. It's your mindset of taking offense, or you can go, I wonder, did that person have a bad day today? I hit the brunt of it, And so you kind of you start to look through a different lens of life. And then you start to see that, everybody's running their own race and struggling and so what can I do to help them, and you're going to get people helping you even at the least expect it and stuff like that. So it makes life real beautiful, You
said something that I thought was interesting, and if that's transferable into other areas of my life, like why wouldn't I do something? And you said that when you first started, it took you 3 years to build up the confidence, was the word that you used, and the self-belief. You said that. Mm-hmm. And then when you joined with this other crew and you saw them running, you're like, man, if Bill can do it, I'm faster than Bill, or a little slower than Steve or Sally or whatever. And you were able to do those comparisons. But in the building of the confidence, if you're taking that confidence of winning, that mindset into every area of your life, how would it benefit if I could show up at work more confident, if I could show up as a husband more confident, or anything? It seems like that's a completely transferable skill that it's amazing that's what you've acquired from running. Yeah.
So let's just take it a little based off that. I have principles. So my Instagram handle is Venture Your Potential. That's my business, is Venture Your Potential. So And just like life, I was saying, is an endurance event, like discovering your potential is an adventure. It's going to have peaks and valleys, highs and lows. It's basically, you got to step into the unknown. If you're always comfortable, you have to step out of your comfort zone to discover what your potential is. Your potential is beyond your current comfort state. Like if you're always stepping out of your comfort zone to pursue, you're going to grow and reach a greater potential. There is no limit to your potential. And so
when you become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure
like,
I'm understanding you.
Yeah. So like, you know, if you think of it like just like your comfort zone in a circle, you know, you got to step over that line basically in order to grow. Like if you want to expand that circle, you got to step over the line.
Time to get uncomfortable.
But the first principle in my adventure your potential is attitude. So I always talk to, you know, when I'm talking to, you know, clients, when I'm talking to organizations, when I'm speaking and stuff like that, I talk about attitude, because attitude is like the first principle. It's like, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that the goal that you are trying to obtain is possible? Courage, you know, is an attitude, not a positivity. Life, I always believe life is 50% positive and 50% negative. It's what you focus on. So, like, no matter what, there's good and bad. It's 50%, 50%. But if you're so focused on the good, you kind of you skim over the bad. You kind of like oversee it.
Yeah.
And you're just focused on that. And so you're focused on that, and you just see more good coming into your life. But if you're focused on the bad, if you're like your glass is always half empty rather than half full, you're going to see more of those things.
Yeah.
Just like if you're going to about to purchase a car and you're going to buy a blue car and it's going to be a Civic. All of a sudden you're focused on blue Civics, and all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a bunch of blue Civics driving around the town. And you're like, wow, everybody got a blue Civic. I never even realized this. But that's where your focus is. So if your focus is on the good rather than the bad, you're going to see more good coming into your life than bad. So attitude is everything, because when you're in the middle of a race, when I'm running these 100+ mile races, there's going to be good times and bad times. There's going to be good miles and bad miles. And if I analyze and see the bad miles and I say, hey, I understand this, but I also know on the other side of this, it's going to turn good. If it's bad, why is it bad? And I'm going to readjust something, whether it's my hydration, nutrition, or something like that, or if something's flaring up, why? Is it a quad? Is it a calf? Is it Achilles? What is making the adjustments to then overcome that, and knowing that the good is just on the other side of that, and just focus on that. So that attitude is everything. That's why it's my first principle. It's just, and that attitude is what got me to believe in myself, to show the courage to even attempt the challenge. And so, I mean, attitude is everything in how you approach something.
Excuse me. Attitude. So you have 5 principles.
I have 4 principles.
Four principles, and attitude being number 1.
Number 1.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is consistency. Consistency is time. Okay? So if the amount of time that you put into it, you're going to get back out of it. Your priorities. So, and I say this, and I'm going to refer to other things in life than just running too. So I tell my son, he's 14 years old and stuff like that, and everybody that's listening probably has kids that love gaming, right? And I'm just like, well, how much time are you putting into that? Or they might have goals like, hey, I want to be a pilot, or I want to do this. Well, how much time are you investing? Because time, when we're born to when we die, we only have a limited amount of time on this earth.
Yep.
Okay? So you think about the great people that have, like, from musicians to artists to pro athletes, when it comes down to it, how much do they invest in their craft? So how much time are you investing in your craft?
Yeah.
You know, and you can't get yesterday back. So you have to look at today and move and tomorrow. So who cares if you screwed up yesterday? What are you doing about it today?
Got it.
And so it's like, how much time? So the consistency is basically showing up each and every day.
In 10,000 hours.
It's just like the book in 10,000 hours, or your, habits, daily habits and stuff like that. The Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how much time are you investing into your craft? Just like my running. How much time am I investing into it? And what I invest into it, I'm going to get back. You're always going to get something in return.
What do you get in return?
You get knowledge. You get experience. You get to
those
learn.
Views. You get the goods and the bads, all of it.
Yeah, but the bads. So I always tell my clients, when they say they have an injury or they're having something flare up, that's just your body speaking to you.
Yeah.
Your body's speaking to you saying, hey, there's something off.
Yeah.
It's not like a negative. It's
feedback.
It's feedback. It's giving you feedback. If you didn't invest your time, you weren't consistent, you would have never got that knowledge of the flare-up. So could be a flare-up in your race, in your event. But if you're learning in the process, in your training, then you're going to learn how to correct it. If it flares up and it's speaking to you and you analyze, you're like, okay, do I need to roll it out? Do I need to stretch a little bit more? Am I low on electrolytes? People don't realize that electrolytes can cause tears in the muscle fibers, because if the muscle fibers are like tense because you are low on electrolytes, then you can tear something.
Wow.
So you got to kind of figure out, why did this happen? How did it happen? And how can I correct it? And then once you gain that knowledge and apply it and become successful and keep moving forward, then if it happens during your event,
you see it coming,
you can see it coming, or when it does come, you're like, I know what to do.
I got this.
And that makes that event more possible for success. So if you, from an attitude standpoint, if you look at negative things that are happening to you as a opportunity to learn rather than this negative, then your mindset of having these happen to you becomes almost like a gratitude thing and a knowledge thing.
Oh, I'm so grateful I had that flare up.
Well,
I learned from
it
this.
sounds funny.
No,
it sounds funny, but everything is, what can I learn from this lesson?
Yeah.
What can I learn from this experience? And so if you can change your mindset and look at like challenges in your life as not challenges, but opportunities for growth and success, then if you learn from that, if you're observant and present and understanding and you learn from that, then you become more powerful. It's another tool in your toolbox so that you don't have to, it's not a big deal if it happens again. It's not the end of the world. And that's, if you think about like stresses as teenagers rather than stresses as adults, stresses don't go away as an adult. They actually get bigger, right? They actually become more compound. Sure. But we get better at handling them. Management. Yeah. And if you can even times that by 10 through putting yourself, like ultra running for me is a training ground for challenges and opportunities to gain more knowledge and apply them to all aspects of my life. So I'm not, it's a lifestyle for me, and it's helping me grow as a human, as a man, as a father, as an employee or a business owner. It's my opportunity to just excel. And so, we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole.
I love this rabbit hole.
Great.
This is awesome. So we've talked about principle 1 and 2. Let's hear 3.
Okay. Effort.
Effort. Attitude.
So consistency, that's great, but if you're just not, so you say like this, you're getting up and you're running every day and you just do the same route at the same speed every day. Hey, you're consistent, right? You're gonna grow, you're gonna learn, you're gonna get better in that. But are you expanding? So effort, in my mind, is like almost like a focused effort. It's like, what can I analyze and do better? And so the effort is not just work. Everybody talks about hard work and work. It's not just work. It's like, I want to put forth more effort into being better, into growing. And effort is like past work, just showing up. Effort is like thriving,
Yeah.
striving to do better.
What did I do to prepare? What
Yeah.
did I do to, I love that effort. All right. And then principle number 4.
Patience. So it's like outside of attitude, patience is always my last one because it's at the end. So think about so many people that got excited. They have a positive attitude. They have the courage to show up. They're putting in the consistency. They're starting to focus in on the effort. But the number one thing that people give up on their goal is they're not patient. They're not patient to
It's
see
epidemic.
it through.
It's the world that we live in.
They want it now.
right now.
Like
And if I can't have it, then it's not worth it.
Yeah. Like you show up to a race to run your first 100 milers and you fail. Okay.
So do you forgive yourself or?
What would you do with it? Are you going to like walk away? Or let's say that they just don't even patience is to see it through. And so many people give up on anything. Like they start and they don't see it through. They start and they don't see it through because they didn't get their results right away or fast enough. And so I tell people, I'm like, from a weightlifting standpoint, so many people come to me and like, hey, I want to get stronger. Or I want to lose weight too, and you're like, okay, if you show up every day, and you do the workout and you do the effort and you have a positive attitude kind of a thing, if you can decrease whether your body composition or your body fat or whatever their goal is, it's only going to be a certain percentage a day. And I say it's going to take you 12 months
To hit your goal.
To hit your goal. And they're just kind of like, whoa, so-and-so is offering like a 3-month package for, it's just kind of like this really quick and easy type thing. And I'm like, well, I'm talking about actually meeting your goal, patiently seeing it through and, doing it properly. And maybe this is kind of a bad example or something like that, but it's usually the patience that if they don't get it now, if they're not getting it fast enough, they're always looking for something different. Like I'll build a training plan for a client, and I'll say, I do them by the quarter, 12-week. And you're going to do the same thing. It's going to repeat itself every few weeks, but you're going to go through it, and it's going to be the same thing for 12 weeks. Within 2 weeks, I'm getting a text or I'm getting a message saying, hey, I saw this influencer doing this workout. Can we apply that into my training plan? I'm like, no. I was like, we're doing this. Well, like they're doing this differently. I'm like, just do the process. They're so busy looking elsewhere instead of looking and doing the work and doing it. They're trying to look for a shortcut.
Yeah.
They're really trying to look for a shortcut or a different way. And I say, that's a great exercise, and we can adapt it into the next quarter. But right now, I have this set up so that you will grow, like whether it's a glute or a hamstring or a quad or something, this will compound on top of this workout and this workout. They actually go together, and there's no way for you to measure your increase or your growth unless you come back around and do it again. Like if you keep changing things up, your muscles, the confusion and stuff like that, you're never going to be able to analyze if you've grown. Just take bench press as an example. If you're doing bench press for a PR and the day before you did shoulders, your bench press is going to suffer.
Right.
So if you're going to go for a PR and bench press, whatever you did the day before when you got your PR, you probably want to do the exact same thing the next day. Or another thing from a weightlifting standpoint, everybody, if you're using different weights than the last time, it makes a difference kind of a thing. So you want to make sure that your environment's the same so that you can measure. So you do a program for 12 weeks so that you can measure and see the progress and see it through. And then after the 12 weeks, then we switch it up so that the muscle has confusion, but we do that one for 12 weeks so that you can then see the growth process and, and measure the results. So
let's shift gears a little bit on the principle. I imagine Ben running through the night, and or do you listen to music?
multiple nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long does it take? How long does 100 miles take?
Well, 100 miles is all. So depends on the terrain and depends on how much vertical gain and loss you have. So if you have a flat race versus a very vertical race, it's going to be a different time frame.
Sure.
So it could go as, and it obviously depends on the personal fitness and stuff like that. But it could range from, there's the fastest people are doing like 12 hours for 100 miles on flat. That's like a track. That's like world record
Those
style.
guys are wheeling.
And it's actually under 12 hours.
Wow.
What?
Oh, yeah. It's fast.
Wow.
You're talking about like
What's the math
just
on that?
above like a 3 hour, you're talking about like, I think the world record right now it's in the upper fives, like under 6 for 100 miles.
Miles an hour.
No.
6
minute miles.
6 minute
Sorry,
miles.
I'm talking pace.
Oh, yeah,
So, and that's like in a controlled environment track and stuff like that. But then if you get into something like, well, we have races here in Colorado called Hard Rock, and it's up in above 10,000 feet, and there's just insane. It's about 30,000+ feet of vertical gain and loss.
Dang.
And it's one of the tougher races. And so those times, the fastest right now is in the low 20s.
Okay.
And so like stuff like that. So there's a big range. I specialize in distances above 200 miles. So 200 miles, you're looking at multiple days. So when you say running through the night, and I say nights,
Yeah.
there's usually multiple nights.
Okay.
Go ahead. I got more.
What's the furthest one you've done?
Right now, my furthest distance is 310 straight.
What? Straight?
Yeah.
How many
That's
hours
like running
is
here
that?
to St. George.
Well, actually, it's so right after I was on your podcast before.
Yeah.
In 2020, me and one of my buddies, during when COVID hit and everything shut down, we created our own event to then raise money for a cause, for an individual that we're trying to raise money for. And we basically linked up 2 iconic Utah races. One is the Bear 100. It goes from Logan to Bear Lake. So it's in the Bear River Range. And then the Wasatch 100, which is from Farmington.
Goes from Logan to Bear Lake.
Yeah.
That's got to be a tough run. That's a lot of climbing and
Yeah,
drops.
you're going through the mountains.
Yeah.
hill to
Okay.
the-
Sorry, I was just
Oh yeah, you're just
metabolizing
imagining
it. Yeah.
And so then the second race is the Wasatch 100. The Wasatch 100 goes from Farmington area
Okay.
and through the Wasatch, basically through like Lambs, over Brighton.
Okay.
So, back behind Park City.
Yeah.
Basically ends at Midway at Soldier Hollow at the cross country biathlon event center there. And that's 100 miles. So those 2 are both 100 miles. And we created a route between the 2 that summited all the major peaks along the Ogden front of the Wasatch and created another 100-mile route. So we basically ran from Bear Lake to Logan to Farmington to Soldier Hollow all in one shot. And it came out to like just over 300 miles with 66,000 feet of vertical gain and loss.
I can't even do the math on that. Like just thinking about driving that makes me tired.
Oh my God! Yeah, we.
So how long does it?
Motorcycle?
So that
Yeah.
took 4 days.
It's a 4-day run.
Yeah.
And do you have on this type of runs? Because I would imagine there's like, okay, you didn't make the window. Like there's got to be some kind of a
It was just like finish it.
finish it.
So we didn't
How
have
many-
like a time frame. We actually had fun while running. We weren't competitive. We just
see if you
we
could do
just
it.
ran. We ran, we stopped and we ate and we took some naps here and there, a couple naps.
Wow. And so, how many people did you have sign up for this insanity?
There was 3 of us.
Those are the numbers I would imagine.
It wasn't even a sanctioned race. It was just a challenge. Let's just say like,
Hey, boys, let's
I
do
call
this.
it a project. I
Yeah.
call them projects. It's like, hey, I wonder if I can do that. A lot of things that I've done, it was these bad ideas that I'm like, I
can
wonder if I can do that.
Figure that out.
I wonder if, can I run this race in Utah? I think maybe this is what I might have talked about in my speaking with you is there's the Wasatch 100 and then there's the Tahoe 200 in Lake Tahoe. So I always run the Tahoe 200. It was my first 200-mile race. They start the same morning. So I'm finishing the Tahoe 200 with all this time to spare. I'm one of the front runners. And I'm like, I wonder, this is just another bad idea while I was running, another 200-miler. I was like, I wonder if I ran the Wasatch 100, took a flight over to Tahoe, started the Tahoe 200 a day behind everybody because they started the same morning as the other race, and then finished that 200-mile race. So these are bad ideas, these crazy ideas, and I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. And then I just execute them, you know?
Do you sweat or breathe heavy
Oh,
anymore?
dude, I'm a sprinkler, man. They might as well call me Rain Man.
All right, so back to my question.
Okay, yeah,
back to my
sorry.
question. So here's Ben running through the nights.
Yep.
And do you listen to music?
Oh, so I do listen to music only at night.
Uh-huh.
And another thing that I listen to at night when music starts to get old is stand-up comedy.
Oh, okay. So you're running through the night, sweating like a sprinkler, laughing your butt off. And so when I think about your principles here, I think about this patience.
Yeah.
I think about this, I'm here, the only sound is this comedian talking and me breathing and the pounding of my body all night long. Like, so let's just pretend like I don't know anything about running and say...
Wait, are you pretending you
No,
do?
no, I know.
Oh, okay.
I don't,
All right, okay.
I don't know nothing about running. I start this 200-mile marathon, ultra marathon, and how far do I go before I get a break, a snack?
That's up to you. The clock started. The clock stops when you finish.
How often do you take
Yeah,
a
okay.
break? And then how long does the race have to
So
be for you to take a nap?
You run when you can. You walk if you have to. Let's just think about that. So there's obviously, when you talk about vert, so your fitness dictates how fast you go, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your fitness dictates if you can run uphill or if you're going to hike uphill. There's also how much energy am I going to expel running uphill versus hiking uphill? And am I going to use up too much energy for not enough time gain? So
ROI.
is it smarter to hike slower than a run, but keep energy so that, because if you get to a point in fatigue where you're walking the flats and the downhills where you should be running, then you made a mistake. You chose wrong.
Okay.
So comes with experience. This comes with that process, showing up consistent every day and learning on variety of different routes what degree of incline should I hike versus run. And that's going to change as your fitness increases over time. So it's an equation that always is evolving and changing. And so, I mean, that's where, the experience comes from versus someone that without the experience and making mistakes. So you make that mistake enough during training and you figure out what the right formula is, then you apply that formula in your event and then you become more successful.
Okay, so I'm back to the running through the night. You're blowing my mind here, Ben. What is it that keeps you putting that left foot in front of the right foot in the middle of the night when it's cold, it's raining, it's miserable? Like what's driving you? What is this? What are you running from?
It's the why. It's your why. Why are you putting together this podcast when you know probably the first few episodes no one's going to listen to?
They shouldn't. It was terrible.
It's just, but you see what the potential could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a hope and but you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's just the same way. It's like, what is your why? So let me give you a story really fast on the why, because I actually talk about the why a lot when I speak to organizations.
Okay.
Because your why is what gets you out of the bed every day.
Right. Sure.
And not like, I'm just going to quit my job and sit here. Well, that's going to be great until they foreclose on your house and all this stuff. There's a why behind everything. Money, family, obligations. You got a lot of different whys that drive you.
Sure.
But in a event that you chose to show up at, you got your own why. There's probably there's a lot of reasons why to quit and just to punch out and go home and have some pizza and, drink soda and watch Netflix. It sounds a lot more inviting, especially when you're suffering out there on the trail in the heat or at night in the cold and cougars just watching you from every direction, or at least that's what you think.
Yeah.
You got to have a why that's driving you forward. So my first 200, my why was, I just want to know if I could do this. I paced a friend the year before at this 200 miler. At that present time, I'd only ran 30 miles. When I ran with her, I ran 93 miles with her. And it opened my mind to, I ran almost half that race. I wonder, and I saw the other people running that race, and there was people older, not as good a shape as I was in, and they were finishing it. So if they were succeeding at this goal, I wonder if I could do that. So I had that, I wonder if I could do that. And that was my why. I wanted to say I ran around Lake Tahoe. I wanted to say I ran 200 miles. I wanted to prove it to myself that I'm capable of this. Well, I showed up the next year to run this 200-mile race, and I got about 120 miles into this race. So at that time, it was my farthest distance. I was in the unknown, but at that time, I was hitting such a low that I had decided at that present time that I was done. And I was still out on trail. I was up on the top of a peak. I was laying in the dirt with my feet up because my feet hurt so bad. It felt like I was walking on hot lava in my shoes. The nerves in the bottom of your feet, just raw. Blisters, very uncomfortable. I can't even describe the swelling when you do stop within joints and legs and stuff like that, especially when you're new to the sport, because your body does adapt over time and it gets easier. But I'm new, and this is past my comfort zone. Well, my why was out the window. I was I went 120 miles. That's good enough. Maybe next year I just need some more training. I need some more stuff. So I'm coming down into these aid stations. So every race has aid stations where you can refill water, get food, change clothes, whatever. It's kind of like these pit stops that you have in the race. Okay. And that's where your crew kind of meets you at these exchanges. So my crew is there waiting for me. I come down in, I'm demoralized. I'm about to give them the bad news. And my daughter at the time was just 14. She joined the cross country team at high school. She's been running all summer, and she comes running up to me extremely excited. And she says, Dad, I was looking at the race manual, and your last leg from the last aid station to the finish line is 17 miles. I want to run that with you.
Oh.
And you're 120 in.
I'm 120 in.
So you've got 50 to go.
Well, yeah, and I'd already decided to quit.
50 to go before you start running with her.
Oh, yeah. I'm done. I didn't tell them. I hadn't have a chance to even tell my crew that I was done. In my mind, I was done. And so I'm looking at the excitement in my daughter's face. She was beaming, and my heart dropped.
I am on hot lava.
And I sat down, and I don't know how long I sat there for, but I just something had to switch. Something switched, and I could not let her down. I could not. In my mind, I was I'm not physically hurt. I'm just physically uncomfortable, mentally destroyed. The driving force behind me was just not. It's just not there. I accepted in my mind that I was done, and this changes everything. And so I stood up, I unloaded my pockets, I refilled with more nutrition, and I never said a word to them. And I left, and I cried. Literally
wept.
Running down the street crying.
How am I going to do this?
Like, but here's the thing. Within like 2 or 3 miles, I started playing the finish line in my mind. I started playing this finish line of me finishing this race with my daughter and how excited she was. And it gave me like this new drive, this new purpose, this new life in me. Like this energy filled me. It was different. And it was probably like we all have pivotal moments in our lives. It was definitely a pivotal moment that opened my mindset on your why, your purpose of why you are pushing yourself past your comfort zone is a powerful thing. And to choose wisely on what that driving force is. I ran the next basically 60 miles to get to pretty much where she was going to meet me at faster than any of the other 60 miles. I was a completely different person.
A switch was thrown.
A switch was thrown. And obviously, when I was running down to where I was picking her up at, I was bawling because I was like realizing that I mean, it was apparent that I was going to quit. It was like this aha moment. And her love for me and my love for her overpowered everything. And so that 17 miles was amazing. Just absolutely astonishing. And I finished that 200-mile race with her pushing me forward, basically, just knowing that she was gonna join me. I took that lesson, and ever since then, every project, every challenge that I've ever done, I've attached it with a purpose that drove me past what I thought was possible. So the year that I did that Wasatch Tahoe project where I ran the 2 races, I raised money for an organization in Sandy called NeuroWorks that helps. It's a nonprofit. They don't turn anybody away regardless, and it helps individuals with neurological injuries like brain trauma, quadriplegics, paraplegics, anything like that. And it's a state-of-the-art facility. So I raised money for them for 2 different projects. And then when me and my buddy Mike that ran that, we call it the Brawl because the Bear River Range and Wasatch link up. So we call it the Utah Brawl.
That's cool.
When we ran that, there was an individual that helped me raise money for the NeuroWorks. Well, he's a triathlete. He got hit on his bike by a car that just couldn't see because of the sun. Pure accident. And he became a paraplegic.
Oh.
And he was training for his first Ironman. The first thing he said when he woke up and I saw him in the hospital was, I still want to be an Ironman. I still want to do this. I don't care that I'm a paraplegic. Like, that was the first thing he was concentrating on. So I asked Mike, I said, hey, Mike, we're going to do this challenge. Can we attach it, associate it, and raise money? So we were able to complete that challenge and raise money for this individual to help him buy a racing wheelchair. Because now he has to have a racing wheelchair. He has to have a biking wheelchair. I mean, there's all these different things. And then we helped him get coaching for 2 years worth of coaching from like the Paralympic coach that's actually right here in Salt Lake.
What?
Like,
Really?
They offered that when they heard what we were doing. Like, the community just came together, and just through social media, we were able to raise money for all this and more for him. But it gave it, like, knowing that you're doing it for someone else and not just for your own personal challenge made it so much more powerful. So I've always attached, like, we've done a lot of different things, but I always try to raise money. If you're going to bring the community and do something, why not do it with more purpose? So my like expression to most people is live your life full of purpose, not just for yourself, but how can you grow yourself, but how can you also serve your community at the same time? Because when we have that limited amount of time, when I talk about you only have so much time, the greatest gift that you can give someone else is your time, because you don't get that back. You're giving a fraction or whatever of your life to helping someone else. And I've always felt that I actually get way more in return. It's an invest. You're giving it away, but it's coming back tenfold. Like from like how you feel about yourself, how you feel about them, the empathy, sharing the experience, the growth, and then just serving and being Christ-like. So it's super important to me within my own personal challenges in life.
Yeah, your practice. I see you doing this, and it's not just your hobby anymore. This is your what's that called? Vocation, your calling, right? That's cool, Ben. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, what's next? Where are we headed? What's the next?
Man. There's so many different things there's so many ideas. Right now, so this year, I have a race in May. It's in Arizona. It's called the Cocodona 250. It's 250 miles. It has some pretty amazing athletes in the lineup this year. My buddy Mike, the one that we ran the brawl with, he's probably rated one of the best 200-mile runners in the world. He's won more 200-mile races than anyone else.
Wow.
And so he's definitely we'll be racing each other. There's other racers that have won the event that are racing as well. And so that's a big deal. And then my biggest thing is, so 2 years ago, me and Mike had another project where we were trying to set a world record. In the running world, we call it an FKT, which is the fastest known time. Same kind of deal,
like
world
a PR,
record,
yeah.
PR. Well, we're trying to do the Arizona Trail. So 2 years ago, we were racing each other across Arizona on an 800-mile Arizona Trail. And
800 miles.
Obviously,
Yeah.
if 310 is my longest,
Yeah.
it didn't work out for me, and it didn't necessarily work out for Mike either. I mean, 800 miles, there's a lot of issues.
That's a long ways.
There's a lot of unknowns that we ventured into that we learned from. He tried it again this last fall, got even a little farther, but didn't quite, get the finish it and get the FKT. So this fall, I'm going for my second attempt. But we're not racing each other. He'll support me, but I'm gonna I'm gonna run across Arizona, try to set the world record, I guess you say, on the Arizona Trail.
When is this happening?
Well, it'll be in October, like the
October.
very last week of October into the first week in November.
Got it. Dang.
So you got to wait till it cools down a little bit.
I was gonna say that week.
There's a window.
Of good weather.
You're hoping for no snow in above Flagstaff
Yeah.
in the Grand
Right.
Canyon. So you're trying to hit good, not too hot down by Tucson
Yeah.
and Phoenix, but not snow up in
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff up into the Grand Canyon.
Dude.
800 miles. Could you?
No.
You can't do 800 miles on your motorcycle
No.
in a day.
No.
Well,
Most
it's
I've
not
ever
a
done.
day. It's not 800 miles in a day. The
That's
record's
still wild.
13 days.
Okay, so what's the recovery like? Like when you run the first 200 that you finished, how long did it take you to get off the couch?
Well, the first 200 that I did, I took like a month off of running and just hit the gym, and then I let my body decide that it wants to run again.
Feeling like it now.
Yeah, because you hit your adrenals. That's a whole other aspect of physical body and stuff, like limitations and stuff. Your adrenals, that's where it comes down to nutrition and choosing good food and stuff like that. Sleep. There's so many different things that help you recover. Supplements and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, the first time I took a month off, some of the last times I only took a week off of running, and then you just kind of eased back into it and just run shorter distances until you feel powerful, you feel good.
Topher, before you got here, I was talking to Ben, and he said it's still hard to start. The first mile or two is still hard.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Every
And
run.
I think that's interesting because here we're talking to a seasoned runner that knows what world-rated runners look like, and if it's still hard, that's something. That's a commitment to the hard. You were talking about that, like choosing that hard.
Yeah.
I think that's telling. I think that says something. It's like that cold water plunge. Like it's still cold.
Every time.
Yeah, every time you do a cold plunge, like I cold plunge 3 days a week, and you get in the initial like woo, like that. Just like when you run, like the first mile or two, you're like, oh gosh, like you're waking up the body, waking up the muscles, and it's just still hard. But when you have experience and you've done it before, you just know that it'll pass, right? You just know it'll pass, and just like the cold, and you get used to it. And the more you see other people do things, and if they can do it, you can do it. Like there's like this like trust and hope that you have and stuff, and it becomes more of like knowledge that it'll pass, but it doesn't make it less.
Yeah.
It you just know by experience. Once you get through that second mile, it'll
You're home.
yeah, it'll you start to get the endorphins, you start to get the serotonin,
Yeah.
the dopamine dropped, and then you start to feel good. Everything starts to come alive, and
Warming up, everything's.
you get into the flow, and
Yeah.
then that's the magic happens.
Why do you cold plunge?
Oh, recovery.
Is it significant?
Oh yeah,
In
yeah.
what
I
regard?
love it. So there's obviously rules for cold plunging. Cold plunging before, so you cold plunge before lifting, but you don't cold plunge after lifting until you get like a 3+ hour space, because you screw up your hypertrophia from muscle repair, because all of a sudden you push all that blood from your muscles, and your muscles need to repair.
Really? I've been doing that.
Don't cold plunge after you lift.
Cold plunge before you lift.
Then you boost your testosterone while you're lifting.
Huh.
So
That's.
about an hour before you start lifting, you want to get past the shakes.
Oh, sure.
You get shiver and stuff like that. You want to warm back up, and then I would just say ease into some cardio to warm your inner body up before you start lifting, so that your muscles respond properly, so that you can lift good.
Okay.
Running is good, or cold plunging after running is good, because the inflammation in the joints, the ligaments, the tendons, and stuff like that. So you're getting that inflammation out, so that you recover. You makes it so you recover better the next day. Things aren't as heavy.
Yeah.
I got this heavy legs, or
Yeah.
my knees, or my ankles, because there's inflammation in there.
Yeah.
So you want to get rid of that. So there's rules in that, but.
How long are you in?
10 minutes.
Oh, I mean,
Well,
that seems reasonable.
and a lot of people are going to say, Huberman says 11 minutes. 11 minutes is the minimum to get the benefits per week.
Oh, per week. Oh.
So 11 minutes per week is what Huberman, if you listen to Huberman, the guy's like a walking encyclopedia. You trust the guy. I trust the guy.
Yeah.
So he's talked to, and just says 11 minutes per week is where the benefits start, kind of a thing.
Okay.
So that's like the minimum. I don't know if there's actually a maximum, and people will, like, I'll post on my social, like when I do a cold plunge and it's like 10 minutes, like, oh, you only need 11 minutes per week. Well, my thought process is I run really like my body temperature is always hot. So I believe it takes me longer in the cold plunge to get colder. I get in I'll get in with ice cubes and just sit there, and I don't get heavy breathing. I'm just like, today I almost fell asleep and like went under, because I was just kind of like daydreaming, and I just fell asleep in it, I don't think cold affects me as much. So I choose to stay in longer to make sure I
Get the benefit.
really get the benefits.
Yeah. 11 minutes, that's, just like we were saying earlier, everyone is different. Every body is different. And that's, that makes sense. So you're in there 10 minutes.
3 days a week.
3 days a week. Oh, man. I do 4 minutes almost every day.
Oh, see, the 4 minutes is where, like, after that, it's all the same.
Yeah, that's what I thought. After minute 2, and
You went through all the tough stuff. If you want to hit 10, it's no big deal. It's like,
Yeah, I can imagine that.
you're
That's
just making
true.
sure the cherry's on top. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. So what's the advantage of the 10 minutes then? I
don't know. For some reason, the first time I cold plunged, I had this, like, I think it was like, I swear I heard Wim Hof talk about something about 10 minutes years ago. I don't know. I had this number 10 minutes in my head, and so I got in and I just did 10 minutes, and I've done 10 minutes ever since.
All right.
I honestly think that number is a athlete side of that of cold plunging.
An athletic number.
Yeah, because 10 minutes, or it was 15, or if I'm going to put ice on my arm, that's 20. And those were kind of the
numbers.
The numbers. I think that's just what they did. It could totally be arbitrary.
I like it for the anti-inflammatory. I usually take ibuprofen.
No, don't do that.
Ibuprofen.
And I was taking it every day until I started cold plunging. And then because of my cold plunging, I don't take ibuprofen at all anymore because it takes care of it. It lasts. It's an ibuprofen that lasts all day rather than I have to take some in the morning and I got to take some in the evening. And it was destroying, I'm sure, my liver, my kidneys, which is no bueno.
But also, ibuprofen slows healing. So it helps with inflammation, but it slows healing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. I love this. And so if I want to hire Ben Light as a coach to help me to do my ultra marathon, the direction that I'm headed, how can I get a hold of you?
Easiest way is Instagram, adventure.your.potential.
Okay.
My website is currently under construction. It'll be up and running here in the next month or two. I've been working on that. But
do you have the URL picked out?
Oh, yeah. It's adventureyourpotential.org.
Okay.
So
we'll drop that in there as well. And if I'm looking for, it seems to me like you do a lot of different things. Like let's say I have an organization that I have a sales team or a sports team or something like that, and I want to hire you to come out and spend some time with us.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn for Benjamin Light or Ben Light. DM me through Instagram or my email address. My personal email address is ultralight, ultra LIGHT light 007 at gmail.com.
Cool.
But badass email.
That is a cool.
Ultralight, and everything else was taken. So I like James Bond. So I was like 007.
Yeah, that's cool. That's amazing. So, and what other things are you doing in the community that people could engage you and we could support you?
Well, I'm working right now. I'm working with so one of the things that I'm in process, let's just say this is the beginning of the process. So we have the Olympics coming in 2034. And since I live up in Heber, I have a few clients that are involved with the cross-country and biathlon, U.S. cross-country and biathlon team. And so I'm actually in the process of helping with the developmental team on that. That's something I'm involved with. Cool. And then I'm pretty excited about it. Could lead to something really awesome.
That would be awesome.
I'd like to see, some clients on the podium of an Olympic.
That'd be cool.
Especially if they've been in the U.S. and stuff like that. So that's, other than that, just involved with just different things in the local community and stuff.
Yeah. How long do you plan on running?
As long as my body lets me. So many people, there's so many misconceptions in the world. So the world paints things and puts false information into people's minds. Like, they're like, oh, your knees are going to give out, or this is going to give out. And it's completely false. I think the world makes up excuses to limit personal growth. And it gives somebody an excuse to not strive for more.
Well, I read that. Okay.
It's just, and today more and more people, especially, I love that you guys are a mindset group, because a mindset group is to open up your mind to limitless potential. I've learned from nutrition. When you're fine tuning your body to do incredibly strenuous things, and what you put in your body, just like a race car, what kind of fuel you put in your body will dictate your performance. So when you get to a high enough level, when you eat particular foods, you can feel the difference. So you start to fine tune that on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and you become a very high performance machine. Your body becomes a more high performance machine, and you can feel the difference what foods impact you negatively and positively. And you start to list out these things. And I'll just, this might not be popular among people, but a lot of things that health professionals and agencies push aren't necessarily healthy.
You mean it's about the dollar?
Yes.
Interesting.
So I encourage people to find out for themselves, like to become their own testing experiment in a way. And like whether it's, organic beef or, I'm a big advocate of raw milk where, oh dear, like that's outlawed in some states. And like, you're like, well, I'm a pretty God-fearing person, and I really feel like God gave us cows for a reason, and from the beginning of time, kind of thing. But when I changed over to raw milk, I saw an increase in muscle density. I saw an increase in performance. I saw an increase in recovery. When I switched over to more organic beef, when I eat particular, we haven't even dived into it, but I time my food. I push my carbs and my fats and my proteins at different times of the day, depending on my training, because they hit your body differently, and you want to utilize things differently, and you recover differently. Water is important. Electrolytes is important. There's so many things, but like I stay away from as much processed foods as possible. If you can't pick it, you can't grow it or kill it,
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it, or try not to, like limit it.
Yeah.
I'm not over here like never having a piece of chocolate cake. Sure. But am I going to eat a chocolate cake the night before I go do a long run? No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's foolishness. Like, why would you put substandard fuel into a racing car right before you put it on the track?
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So you start to look at things like that. So that's a whole nother, like you're going down a whole nother avenue kind of a thing. And not everybody's going to agree with it. And even in the running community, it's still, nutrition is almost like a religion where you got vegans, you got keto, you got, vegetarians, you got
everything.
Paleo. And whatever, I always say, whatever works for you, figure out what works for you and do that. I just encourage you to eat clean. You can be a clean vegan and choose clean food. Yes, Oreos are vegan friendly.
Yeah.
According to the package.
Yes. But is it clean?
But is it going to serve you what, are you going to get the benefits then rather than eating avocado or eating, some good, whole grain, rice and different things and stuff like that. So.
Gotcha. Questions, Topher?
Man, I feel like we could do this all night.
Oh, I'm telling you, you're just scratching the surface of different things.
I believe you.
So you've got some things still ahead of you. You're creating your coaching organization. You're involved in the community. What is the big why that keeps you going? Because as I've learned in my life, my why has changed sometimes regularly, and it's not always the same thing for everything, right? So what's the why that's getting you out of bed early and up and running?
When you climb a mountain and you get to a summit, it's an amazing view, and it's really empowering, self-accomplished, but there's a lot of times when you scan the horizon, there's always another peak over there, and you wonder what's up on that peak. There's always another peak over there. So as long as you continue to have goals in front of you, you always have a why to wake up to.
Okay. You lay your goals out and you stay intentional in life. Yeah. I love that. Well, Ben, I want to ask you, how has running affected your family?
Well, it's so interesting because a lot of people look at people that do these extreme type sports, and they sometimes say, "Oh, that's kind of selfish to spend all that time away from your family."
Yeah.
And I just like, well, it all depends on how you look at it. And obviously depends on the individual and what other things are going on in their life. But I'll just be up front. When I left my corporate job, or I got laid off, and I had the desire to somehow make a career out of my hobby or my passion, and I didn't know how. I never had the courage to actually initiate to try. When I got laid off, it was pretty much I got thrown into the opportunity, and I took it, and it's been in a crazy struggle, like just like running a race, to figure out how to create income, over the period of time. But as I look back, I've never had more time. I was always there to get my kids off to school. I was always there to see my kids come home. I took my kids loved going to races. I never even pushed, especially cross country. Both my daughters that are out of high school now and on their own, ran cross country in high school, and I'm like, hey, that's up to you. Like, I wasn't one of those parents that are like, oh, you're going to do my sport, or I'm going to project that onto you. They chose to do it, and I don't know, maybe it was from my example. Maybe they wanted to identify with Dad and what he's doing, but they obviously saw a benefit in it. They saw something in me, and my daughter's right now training for her first 50K in April, and I created the training plan for her she asked me for a Christmas gift if I could create a training plan for her. And I'm like, I'll train, it doesn't have to be a Christmas gift. I'll give you a training plan no matter what.
Yeah.
But it was her asking me. It wasn't me pushing it on her. And so they've had a front row seat at seeing Dad be vocal about this crazy goals. And then they've seen me fail. They've seen me succeed. They've seen me get back up every time and move forward. And there's one thing I'd have to say, and I do not know how to be the best. Like, I'm lucky I have great kids. I don't know how they turned out so well, but I don't have a kid that lives in the basement at 30-something years old. Like, literally, I was in Paris about to run another race, and I get a phone call from my oldest daughter saying, hey, Dad, don't be bad, but I moved out while you were gone. I enrolled at LDS Business College, and I found an apartment, and I've moved in. So when you get back, my room's empty. I'm like, hallelujah.
Way to go, dear.
And then I was in Portugal, or I was in Belgium for another race, and my daughter calls me up, my second daughter, and she goes, hey, Dad, don't get mad at me, but I moved out and I'm going to this college. And like, they just did it. They just, and I don't know. My son is like, he's just like, he's so like driven by money. He's like, hey, Dad, I put together this flyer. I'm going around to the neighbors, and I'm going to do small engine repair and do tune-ups on lawnmowers. 13 years old doing this. This year, he just bought himself all the equipment to clean dryer vents. So he's going around to all the neighbors saying, hey, I can clean your dryer vent. Like, different things like that. I'm like, I didn't teach him this. He's just doing it. He's like trying to do lawn care. He's trying to do dryer vents. At 14 years old, he's like
little entrepreneur.
And I'm looking at this, and I'm telling him like how impressed I am. But I tell him also, I'm like trying to give him like liability stuff. Like, hey, if this starts to take off, we're going to need to get a business license, and you're going to need some liability insurance because just in case you do something to somebody's dryer vent, like I'm worst case scenario, like big picture thing. But I'm like looking at him going, mind blown. Like, when I was your age, all I could think about is baseball, soccer,
G.I.
footballs,
Joes,
and girls.
Yeah.
And I'm sure girls are on his mind too. But he's just like, so how has this affected my family? I don't know if it's directly this. But I'd like to think that they see Dad pursue but always raising the bar, always raising the bar. And I keep telling them, you can do anything you want. It just takes the right attitude. It takes consistent effort and patience to see it through. And I just keep telling them that, and keep telling them that, and keep telling them that. And hopefully it plants that seed, and it drives them to have them become way more than I ever became. Like, we all as parents want to see them do even more and be even better. And I think that's so, so important, is not just to live by word and tell your kids, but live by example and show them. So my time invested in me, hopefully, is me investing also in showing them what is possible and giving them the courage, the hope, and the belief that they can achieve whatever they want to. It doesn't have to be in running. It could be
anything they want.
Anything they want.
Wow, Ben. This has been awesome. This is such good stuff.
I don't have a lot to say.
I have so many more questions for you, and we're out of time. But can we have you back again?
Yeah,
can we invite
anytime.
you back? Because this is tremendous, and the lessons these are life lessons. These are real struggles that people are going through. These are the real things. The one thing that you said that really impressed me most, and an audience, I want you to listen, and I may have misheard it, so I'm going to repeat it, is that we are limitless beings.
Oh, yeah.
And that we are creating whatever it is we set our minds to. And with these 4 basic principles of attitude, consistency, effort, and patience, we can create the world that we want. And if you're having something happen, and this is coming from me now, if you're having something happen in your life that isn't what you want and you're not where you want to be, why don't you apply a little bit of attitude and some consistency, a little bit of effort, and maybe some patience in the direction that you want to go, and see what happens. The example that you're setting is a tremendous example for me. I'm grateful that you're on here, because I needed this message tonight. I can't tell you how timely this is in my life. And so thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the American Masterminds. Thanks for tuning in. And if this message resonated with you, share it with your friends, because this is a life lesson, and there's many life lessons that Ben shared with us tonight that you could take. You can share this with your family and your kids. Like us and follow us, comment, let us know if you have someone that you'd like to come on the podcast, because we're always looking for great examples like Ben to show us the way. So thank you again, Ben. We really do appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.